So, one thing that I'll point out is that there was a lot of classroom management that I had to do more, but like the classroom management that I was doing that I hope you noticed is exactly how I do it with kids who are not my own. I would deal with it privately. You probably couldn't even hear what I was saying to the kids when I was dealing with them, but you could probably tell that I was saying something to them because I was just whispering it in their ear, which is exactly what I would do. Like I maybe wouldn't get quite as close as I did since these are my own children, but I would make it clear that like only the two of us could be heard, and so I'd say things like, "Hey, I want like with the video, I said, I want you to watch this video one more time, and I want you to do it without the silliness." You know, and that didn't completely work, but it worked okay. You know, like Cash was getting out of his chair a lot, so I just went over to him and I pulled the chair over. I said, "Have a seat." I do that exact same thing with any kids. I do that same thing with middle schoolers. Right? So, sometimes you had to do things like that with high schooler kids. You know, like pull the chair out, like have a seat. And so like those same strategies I'd be using, and then even at the end, like the boys were kind of elbowing each other. So I went over there and I stood next to them, and they stopped. So it's just little things like that like as a classroom teacher, as a parent, whatever, like those are the same strategies I'd be using. So one of the reasons I think I had to use so much classroom management with this activity is because there isn't a lot of hands-on stuff, which is okay. I mean, like not everything can be super hands-on. I think the investigating the rocks in the sand provides a really good concrete experience, and the videos also provide. Notice how when we were watching the videos, they were much more engaged. The conversations got a little bit long, but also, what? Oh, you need to answer these. Bill and those too.
After that, can I go and grab the cabinet from my...
Yeah. Yep. And what was I saying? Oh, the conversation went long. But remember, like this isn't 3 or 4 lessons you do. Like this would be 3 or 4 different days, right? So there's a lot stacked on top of each other without a lot of like change. And so like for anybody, that's a long time. And for 7-year-olds and 10-year-olds to like stay focused on a single topic for 60 minutes, that's asking a lot. So with that, what questions do you have for me about what you saw or how I maybe modified things from your lesson plans?
Where did you get the pictures of the formations by the sea?
I just Googled 100 years, like sea stack over 100 years or something like that, and it came from like the National Geology Association or something. It's a pretty common, and it's on that. Like I put a link to that PowerPoint or to that Google slideshow in your lesson plan.
Okay.
So it'll just be there now.
Okay.
One thing I'll recommend for your lesson plan as you go to finalize it, and as you write your article for the grad students, is you have places where like you could ask this question or this question or this question or this question. Pick a question. Like, what is the question you would ask? Which of those is the best? Because like in your lesson, even when you give yourself that many options, what you end up doing during your teaching is you end up like, oh, I've got 4 questions here. Which one am I going to do? Whereas if you just have one question written down, it's quicker to look at. It's quicker to jog your memory. And then as for the article that you're going to write, like you want to kind of tell the story of what you saw here. Like you don't want to say, well, the teacher could ask this question, this question, or this question. Say, we asked this question, and here's how the kids responded. Like the options is nice when you're kind of brainstorming, but when it actually comes to like checking a lesson plan that has like 4 questions written down where you're only going to ask one, it's actually like confusing. Like I actually rewrote your lesson plans. I don't know if you'll be able to see this for myself onto a single page. And then I just wrote like, you know, it makes more sense to me than it would to you, but like there's a lot of extra detail, or not extra detail, there's a lot of extra options in your lesson plan that I think now that you've kind of seen what actually happens, you could maybe remove some of those options. What other questions are you wondering about?
I noticed kind of towards the beginning, we were making that list of like what do you need to know and like the brainstorming.
Mm-hmm.
You then said like this is called constraints, this is called criteria. Is that something that we should like be thinking about? Because that's obviously like nature of engineering.
Yep.
Is that like we should say we want to hit this vocab word, or is that just like come up on the fly?
I think both. I think sometimes you want to plan for it, especially early in your career, because it does come up on the fly, but only if you plan for it. And so that's one, like both with nature science and nature of engineering, like in my experience, like now in my career that I've been doing this for so long, I see options for teaching about nature science and nature engineering all over the place. You know, like with the puppy example, that's an opportunity to talk about why scientists don't use kind of fantastical ideas. But early in my career, if I didn't explicitly plan to talk about nature of engineering and nature of science, I didn't. Because there's just too much else going on in my head. And so yeah, I would plan for it explicitly. I would include it in the article, because if you don't, it's really easy to skip over. And then, 5-6 years from now, it'll just be one of those things that it's just part of your teaching. What else are you wondering about?
When you showed some of the videos, sometimes you would show it once and just go straight through, and other times you'd stop it and ask questions and then continue on. And then one time I think you played it like 2 or 3 times. How do you make that decision?
I think it kind of depends on the video itself, right? So as I'm playing the video, like I'm always thinking about how do I get the kids to be actively mentally engaged and also see what I want them to see. And so sometimes with a video, I might get up to a point where there's something about to happen and I'll pause it, because this is an opportunity where they want to know what's going to happen, so I make them make predictions. So what do you think is going to happen? That prediction making allows me to make connections to nature science, why scientists make predictions, but it also gets them really thinking about what's going to happen and why. And so think about the predict, observe, explain teaching model we talked about. Like when I pause the video and say, what do you think is going to happen? That's like a little mini predict, observe, explain. And so that's all about getting them more actively mentally engaged. And sometimes I have them watch the video a second time, because sometimes if I pause it, it kind of interrupts the phenomenon. And so I'll play it again, especially when they're so short, right? If it was a 5-minute video, I'm not going to play it twice. But when they're so short, I can pause it, get them to predict, get them thinking about what's going on, and then I can say, okay, we're going to watch it again, so you can kind of see the whole phenomenon together. So that's kind of my thinking. What else are you wondering about?
Playing with. Where's my normal bridge? I made like a train. Look at the bridge.
It is suspension.
I just made my
All right, if you got nothing else, what I'll do is I'll upload this video and email you all once it's there. It'll probably be later tonight, and then at some point I'll take